Hello and welcome to Taxpayer Talk. We are fortunate to have as a guest tonight Margaret Albright. Margaret is a longtime resident of Newton, and she is a longtime board member of the Newton School Committee. Thank you for coming. We appreciate it. Just as our usual quick reminder, Newton Taxpayers Association is a group of nonpartisans committed to acting for the benefit of taxpayers as a watchdog on city fiscal policies and practices. Tonight we will be discussing some of the ways in which the Newton Schools spending impacts taxpayer finances. So we will get right to it. Number one is a bit of an introduction. Like every city in America, Newton schools have been faced with making challenging decisions about adapting teaching in this COVID environment. We were just talking before we went on air about how challenging it is,
Yes.
and it's very challenging. At the board level, how did you drive at the current strategy approach, and do you think we are providing adequate hours for in-person learning at this stage?
Well, so our current approach is kind of informed by the health decisions that we've made. And the decisions are 6 feet of distancing at all times, mask wearing at all times, hand washing, and not coming to school when you're sick. So that greatly reduced the number of people we could have in the building at any one time. And then, of course, we have staff issues that have plagued us and other school districts. Not only do we have staff members who are at risk and do not want to teach in person because it's a health risk, but it's been in the media pretty much every day that the number of women that have had to drop back from working because they do not have childcare or their own children are learning remotely and they have to be home with them. And of course, the majority of our teachers are women, many of them young women with children. So childcare came into it as an issue as well. So staffing became difficult because, of course, we're staffing a school day. Plus, at the elementary level, while we have in-person learning, we also have more than 1,200 students who wanted a remote-only stream. So we're staffing basically 2 schools.
Yes, with two different methods of teaching.
Two different methods of teaching.
Yeah.
The middle school students returned today. This is the beginning of their second term.
Right.
This was their first day in school. They are also in A and B cohorts, with A going to school on Monday and Tuesday and B going on Thursday and Friday. And at tonight's meeting at 7 o'clock, we'll be talking about the high school return to learn. And again, much of that was the decisions around it were driven by staffing issues and staffing difficulties.
I'm sorry, is the high school intended for January?
For January, yeah.
That's what I thought.
And we're not the only ones. I'm a pretty active member of the Mass Association of School Committees, and I can't tell you the number of districts that have had problems with staffing. Because the other thing is, of course, substitute teachers. A lot of substitute teachers were older people who had retired and subbed a couple of days a week, and they're not teaching this year in person. So
are they more apt to have comorbidities, that sort of thing,
well,
or not even necessarily that
for
specific?
someone who's in their late 60s, that's a decision. You're retired. Do you really want to do this? Of course you don't want to do this. Right. So a lot of us have been struggling with staffing issues. I was talking to one of my colleagues in North Reading, and they only have kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade back in person. That's it. They've not even been able to bring back the rest of the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, which we've been able to do. So it's a challenge across the state. It's really a challenge.
So when I listen to you walk through it that way, it sounds like you feel there is enough because it's what you can do. It's logistically what you can do.
It's not enough. It is never enough.
Well, okay. I didn't mean it that way, but yes, it's true.
And what we're doing is suboptimal and is not what any of us want.
Right. But COVID is what it is
we are
presented to us.
trying to make the best of a really, really horrible situation. And I would have to say that every decision we make is the decision between bad and worse.
Okay. And it's too early to know what the vaccine may or may not do to change the environment.
Right,
we don't know.
And they're talking late spring before things feel a little bit different. So we have to figure out how to keep moving forward. And that's why, while it's not great, any time we can, I think our goal as a board is to maximize the in-person learning as much as we can in a safe way that doesn't endanger our students and our staff.
I'm just curious, have you observed I don't want to say the ability to do it, but it's something of an iterative process, learning how to live with COVID and still do these things. Have you seen some progress where you can staff up a little bit as you go, or is it just not working that way?
Well, I think one of the things that was really surprising to a lot of people, I was saying to you earlier that we get hundreds of emails a week as a school committee with all kinds of opinions and admonitions and everything else.
And friendly suggestions.
And less friendly suggestions. But one of the things that we found that people said, oh no, the kids are never going to be able to wear the masks and distance, and they've been great.
The kids are very adaptable.
Even
we adults, not so much.
Even the preschoolers, the 3 and 4-year-olds are wearing their masks and staying apart. The kids are great.
Yeah.
So I think that's our biggest surprise, is that everybody told us how miserable it was going to be to enforce this, and the kids have been great.
I'm going to tell you that doesn't surprise me at all. I've always felt that once you get to about 12 or 14 maybe, you're just not adaptable enough.
Yeah.
Never gets better after
that.
That's good to hear, though.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on for the second question past COVID. I wish you could move past it overall, but just for the moment. Yes. When we spoke before the show, you said that you think it's very important to have a decent understanding of Chapter 70.
Right.
In order for people like me and our audience to assess the fundamentals of school department finances. I know you don't mind explaining it, so if you don't mind, explain Chapter 70 to us that in a way we'll understand.
So Chapter 70 was part of the education reform laws in the early 90s in Massachusetts. And so it's a pretty complex formula that takes your tax base, your student population, the need of your student population from poverty, special education, English language learners, and it calculates what they call your foundation budget, the amount of money that the state has stipulated that you must spend on student education.
Okay, if we stop there for 1 second. So it's giving a floor price, you have to spend at least this much, which may or may not relate to what the city or town has budgeted for the students, but there's a relationship working there.
There's a relationship there.
Yeah.
So, I pulled the numbers today to find out what our floor is in Newton, and our floor is $143.5 million that we are required to spend, statutorily required to spend. The state only reimburses us 17.5% for our education costs. So this year it was, let me see, $24.8 million. So that's a drop in the bucket for us. But so a district like Lawrence or Holyoke, where the tax base is much lower and the students have much higher needs, 80% of that money would be provided by the state. For us, it's not so much.
Right.
It's also interesting that the state has determined that we should be spending less on education of our students than a place like Boston or Holyoke or Worcester. They have a higher per pupil expenditure because the students are considered higher need. So, we are expected to spend about $11,000 on our students, and Boston is $14,000, but I don't know of hardly any district in the state that spends less than $15,000.
Yeah. So everybody's below reality in terms
so
of
the state's
the
number
guidance.
is below reality.
Yeah.
And so municipalities have to make up not only what your foundation is, but your reality of what it actually does cost to educate students in your district.
Now, when they formulate these numbers, surely they're talking to school departments all over the state. Do they simply do they factor that in, or they simply reject it?
There's a formula
Yes.
that they have been using for years. So in the last couple of years, the state legislature did go back and revise the formula. And we were supposed to, this year, be getting more money under the formula.
Right. So the intent was the formula would be revised to match reality better.
We need to be closer to
Yes,
what.
yes.
But unfortunately, COVID happened. So
Right.
all bets are off
Yes.
about what we will, and it's what's called the Student Opportunity Act. All bets are off about what this is going to mean for us, not only this year, but next year. Already, we get another pot of money called the circuit breaker. And this is to alleviate the high cost of out-of-district special education placements.
Yes. So is this only for communities that participate in the out-of-district learning programs?
Well, so every district has students that go out of district.
Okay.
And, you know, kids with pretty profound special needs may be at a special school like the Mass Hospital School or the Franciscan
Right.
Children's Hospital School.
Right.
They have such unique and profound needs that the district really can't meet them in district. But those schools are very expensive.
Yes, of course they are.
Extremely expensive because the students that attend them are extremely high need.
Well, even in Newton, the special ed children cost twice as much
Right,
as the
because-
non, because they have special needs.
Because they have special needs,
sure.
exactly. So we were supposed to be getting an amount in circuit breaker for students, our students with special needs. Plus, we were supposed to be getting this year, through the revision of the Chapter 70 formula and the revision of the aid formula, an additional amount of money for that special education transportation. Because if I live in Newton and I'm attending the Massachusetts Hospital School, which is someplace, I think like Bridgewater or something
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
we transport the student
Right,
there.
right.
We were supposed to get $500,000 for transportation. We're not getting it.
Well, the good news is you're not transporting them.
Right. And we were supposed to get 75% of our of our circuit breaker funding formula money. We're not. We're getting 70. So already we're $1.6 million behind what we had projected because of COVID.
Yep. So the loss of that revenue overtakes whatever spending is avoided because of COVID.
Yeah.
It's not like it's an even match or anything.
No.
Because I've had some people say to me, well, we don't have transportation costs, we don't have this. Isn't our cost lower?
So
And
far
you're
this
saying, in
year,
fact,
we've
it's
already,
it's not
so
true.
far this year already, we have had $3.8 million in COVID-related expenses.
Yeah.
And it's just going to grow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Let me just ask a follow-on that's
Yeah.
not on here. With the Chapter 70, how do I ask that? What in your mind is the biggest lesson that as taxpayers we need to learn about decisions we make here in town because of Chapter 70? What does it really force our hand in?
I think it's really important for people to understand what the expectation is on the part of the state in terms of what our community is able to spend and the expectation of what we will spend.
Well, but we could spend more. We're just not going to get that support from the
Well,
state. There's
well,
limits to the
well,
resources
and
they're willing to
basically,
contribute.
what they've said is every student needs a decent education. You in Newton can afford to pay for things
Right.
that
Go beyond the floor.
folks in
Yeah.
Randolph can't afford to pay for, and therefore we are giving more money to Randolph. And it's really supposed to work that way, but it really doesn't. You know, the lower income districts, they will run into problems, you know, in a community where there's not that kind of tax revenue and they don't spend the money on education on students that are really, really high needs. So I think I think for Newton to say that we're really lucky to be able to spend, to be able to not face that issue. We're lucky to not be able to face that issue.
Well, I kind of look at it differently. I mean, you know, we look at it, Newton taxpayers, as it's a marketing proposition. We have a proposition for homeowners, for taxpayers in Newton, that we will have a certain standard for education, no matter what else is going on, including the level of state funding. And that's, lucky or unlucky, it's the proposition this town has offered for decades.
Decades, exactly.
Yeah.
And we're lucky that we don't have to make another decision, as other places have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
As much as they would like to give their children the same education that they are often not able to.
Well, right. Or they may not want to pay for it. I mean, it's
Right,
an expensive
exactly.
proposition.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. When we look at these kinds of things at Newton Taxpayers, and we do it at our board, and we
Yeah.
also do it with our member meetings that are periodic, we've been pretty frustrated at spending at the school department. And, I know that everybody in the school committee works hard at it and in the school department, but we look at it as inadequately controlled. We look at certain things and it drives us crazy. And of course, the spending at the school department is a very significant proportion of the city's spending. So it's a big chunk of change. And the vast bulk of spending at the school department is on employees. They're doing
87% of the budget.
There you go. They're doing the work. What new and perhaps creative initiatives might the school board undertake to limit that constant growth in compensation to the employees?
Well,
When your wheels get going, what sometimes occurs to you?
Well, the constant growth in compensation is kind of driven by the way teacher contracts all around the state are.
It's true, but it's always beyond the cost of living increases. It's always beyond.
It is just about every single place you go.
That's right.
So they're the places where we have the ability to trim are things like benefits. We have fairly generous benefits in Newton. And we are self-insured in the city of Newton and offer some pretty nice health plans. A number of districts around us have chosen to go on the GIC, or the state's insurance program. Brookline, Lexington, I'm trying to think of others, Arlington, Weston are on the GIC.
Okay.
So the insurance program that they offer their employees is the same one that the state legislature gets, and
Yeah,
every
you're
state
talking
employee.
about health insurance. at this
Health
point,
insurance, yeah. So it offers a wider variety of plans than we do as a self-insured. So we offer, basically a very small portfolio of plans, and they're fairly expensive. On the GIC, if I'm a single person and I'm young, I can take a higher deductible plan because that's what I choose to do, and
Right.
pay less out of my pocket,
Right.
but also less on my employer's
Right.
behalf.
So for a certain segment of the employees, it's a good deal because you're not forced to pay
Right.
a certain amount that might be beyond your needs.
What
your
you
needs.
want
You're
to
self-determined.
do, what
yeah.
you want to do at this stage in your life.
Yes.
And that's not to say that the GIC doesn't have plans for other people, but they have higher out of pocket, they have higher deductibles,
Yeah.
they have, those kinds of things.
Well,
Or
they
the-
also have a much larger risk pool, which you would think would enable them to keep their costs a little
Right.
more contained.
But, it's a wide variety of plans
Yeah.
that are available. But, school districts struggle with this. There's some cooperatives in other parts of the state where like 5 or 6 towns have gotten together and they pool to buy insurance.
Yep.
It really doesn't save them a lot of money.
Not a lot, but generally insurance costs run against risk pools. So the bigger the risk
Yeah.
pool, the more efficient you are, to a point. It's not
Yeah.
but in insurance, a few percentage points
Yeah.
makes a big difference.
Yeah, and I have my concerns because the two biggest plans we offer are Harvard Pilgrim and Tufts Health Plan, which are merging.
So much
So-
for choice.
So,
Well, it does open an opportunity, though, right?
Yeah,
I
but-
said creative,
but
so somebody else might want to walk in that door. Right?
yeah, but it's worrisome when the two major competing bids that you get are from basically the same company.
Well, it happens every day. It's
Yeah.
a challenge. It's one more challenge,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
All right. So there's one important point, just maybe taking a closer
Let's
look at the health insurance.
at benefits, yeah. And when you look at other city and town budgets, I think I mentioned this to you before,
You did.
that in some communities, like in Framingham and in Lexington, the teachers' health insurance is not carried in the school budget. It is carried in the town or city
You're
budget.
talking about the liability pools.
When you look at what they've budgeted for the school,
Right.
you don't see insurance in there because
Right.
it's in the city's
It's in
budget.
another bucket. Yeah. No, I
in another
understand.
bucket. So,
Yeah.
so you're looking at apples and oranges.
Well, except that when we look at it, we do know we have to
Yeah.
adjust for that in a number of towns. And in fact, a number of the towns that have school systems that are roughly comparable to ours in terms of quantified results,
Yeah.
that are lower cost per pupil, they do actually have the money elsewhere, and we do have to move it
Yeah,
back
yeah.
to make it
Yeah.
more comparable. So
Yeah.
no, it's
Yeah.
good advice to pay
Yeah.
attention to that.
Yeah.
Can you think of maybe a second case beyond healthcare costs that we might get creative with?
So one of the things that kind of we charge less for student parking than we do for a bus pass, and that is both kind of a silly thing and an environmentally silly thing.
I'm sure there are people who don't like that.
Because we would rather not have people driving to school and much rather have them taking the bus, and so those kinds of things, just kind of reversing that. Getting more people to ride the school bus and to instead of having their kids driving their kids themselves, because in grades 7 through 12 we charge a bus fee.
But wouldn't that drive costs up though?
We have a lot of empty buses because people don't buy passes.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
your occupancy levels are too low for the cost structure.
I would like to maximize the yellow bus.
I got you. Okay. That's always a challenge. Ask the airlines. That's
Yes, yes.
a long-term challenge.
Maximize ridership.
But it's creative. I like
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Good. Because one of the things we talk about at NTA a lot is outsourcing, and we're big fans of outsourcing to a point. And there are
Yeah.
points at which it becomes counterproductive. But in any organization, private or public, doing what you're really good at and focusing on that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And in the peripheral things are where you always get in trouble from a cost standpoint, from a performance
Right.
standpoint. And one thing we would love to see the school board do more of is take some of the marginal activities and outsource them.
Well,
and
you
I
know-
know there are issues we talked about,
Yeah.
the politics of that.
Yeah, and we have actually more than some districts because, for example, we
I
don't
don't
own our
doubt that.
buses.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have a bus contract.
Yeah.
We don't run our food service. Whitson's Nutrition does.
Yes.
And that means that the equipment and everything else is their responsibility.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we had talked about the janitors, and you had explained to me there's a very big political component to that. But when I think of people who run schools, superintendents who get PhDs in education, they really don't have a lot of training in building maintenance. I mean, that's not why they're there.
That's why we don't run our food service anymore. We're
Well,
not,
right,
We're
and
not
that's
very good at the
outsourcing.
catering business.
Right, and you don't want to be, right?
No,
Even if you
no.
could, you don't want to be.
And we're not
So-
very good at the mass transit.
I'm not sure anybody's good.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, very good.
Yeah.
Now, we've talked about COVID at the top. Let's come back to that. It's obviously an extraordinary event. They happen every 50 or 60 years, and nobody's ever ready for it because it's such a shock to
Yeah.
the system. Looking forward, you mentioned that you see some red flags. And anytime an event like this happens, the red flags pop up because the weaknesses in organizations, and I'm not talking about big problems, I'm talking about some weaknesses, become clear in this sort of a situation where things get a little out of control. What do you see coming that we need to really anticipate as COVID hopefully winds down sooner than later?
Well, I'm concerned about a couple of things with regards to the schools. I'm concerned about learning loss in our students because of the less time they have spent with a teacher. Not less time in learning, but I don't think for a lot of kids that online learning is that effective. And I am concerned about the mental health aspects. There are a lot of kids who are really suffering from isolation. So I think we're going to have expenses in that regard.
Some catch up
Yeah.
that you'll need to do? Yeah.
I also am concerned about some of the money we get from the state. For example, the Mass School Building Authority, which has helped us renovate and rebuild some schools. Their funding comes from the sales tax. And so, of course,
From the
there's
stores that are gone
the
now.
stores that are gone and the people who aren't shopping.
And that will get tough because Massachusetts has the third highest debt level in the country. So they can't even, you'd like to think you can add debt when you need to in an emergency, but there isn't a lot of room for that either.
Yeah, and the other thing is that, city revenues are down for restaurant meals tax, hotel tax, parking revenues, excise tax. All of these things have just taken a nosedive.
Yes. Yep.
So, yeah.
And they're not coming back fast.
And they're
They
not
just
coming
can't
back
come
fast.
Okay.
No.
All right. All right, the last question is my one tough question. And this goes to the heart of how we think at NTA, for better or for worse. Many of our members, and we hear from them, we talk to them, we have people on our board who have been damaged by job losses, pay reductions, additional family service costs like childcare. I can tell you myself, I had an 18-month project terminated before it started on April 1st because it had to be. That's all there was to it. We hear the frustrations from those members, and we hear that they're struggling, but their taxes are the same as always. They're not going anywhere. And we've looked with dismay at spending at City Hall, and we see it unchanged. And the employees, for the most part, their ability to work and earn money has not been diminished at all under COVID. But the people paying the taxes have some pretty tough cases out there. Are there one or two initiatives, and I know you can't control this directly, you've made that point to me, but are there one or two things that the school department might pursue to try to bring down the costs such that the mayor's office and the council could do something with taxes to help?
I'm just really concerned about what we're facing post-COVID. And I'm afraid that we're facing a much higher need population. And a lot of our students' families also have lost jobs, we've got kids that now need to be on free lunch, there's lack of childcare, there's all kinds of things. I think we're going to have to be helping more than we did, and I think we're going to have to hope that the state and the federal government do something.
Yeah, I don't think they have the money either.
I
don't think any of them have the
because
money.
we can't borrow to do operating.
Yeah,
we can't.
That's right.
And we're just going to be facing a different world. And I can't really predict what it is that we could do to save money because I'm not really sure there's anything there.
No, it's true. No, my only admonition I give to the school department is you got to do what you can because the people who pay the taxes have been damaged, and they will be less and less. That's not the right. I don't know, but they will be less flexible going forward to help solve the problems that you're talking about that are going to be real problems when they come. But they have a hole that's been dug for them too. So.
Yep, and we have had a hole that's been dug for us too.
Well, but the city workers haven't really been touched by this financially. There are lots of other ways they've been touched, and I'm not. It's not to say the teachers aren't working hard to make it work. Clearly, my daughter's a teacher. I hear the story, but financially, not everybody has been gone through the ringer.
Yep.
So, and I just say it's worth remembering because when the time comes that we want money to fix these other things, there are going to be people saying, "I've already given it the
budget
office."
season's going to be pretty wild this year.
No, it's true. It's true. Okay, very good. Well, thank you. And obviously, and you've been doing this for a long time, we've really only scratched the surface of the financial aspects of the school department. So on this show, we will continue taking a closer look at this. So all of us, myself, the audience, have a better understanding. And one thing I want to say, and I hope I don't offend you saying this, but we've always had a struggle at NTA getting any kind of response from the school department and the school board. We've never really been able to engage in discussion or get answers to phone calls. It's been pretty unfriendly toward us. So the fact that you're here speaks really well for you, I think, and we really appreciate it. And it tells me you want to be part of the solution, not the problem.
Happy to talk to anyone, anytime.
Well, as long as we behave ourselves.
I may not give you the answers you want, but
they are what they are.
They are what they are.
All right. Well, thank you for watching Taxpayer Talk. We'll see you next time.
Bye. All right.